Hey, you ever wonder who watches esports and who watches gaming? I wonder that all the time. That's a question that's been on my mind for a real long time. I wonder what kind of weirdos watch esports events and watch all kinds of gaming stuff. But that's not data that's ever really been available, is it? You couldn't really find a YouTube video that has accurate and reliable and precise demographic data on who these people are. Until now, because normally you don't have that kind of access because puny mortals don't have access to that kind of data. But we are not mere mortals on the Devin Nash channel. We're marketers. So we're going to get into this thanks to, in large part, almost entirely actually, a platform called GIQ. Not sponsored. I don't take sponsorships on this channel. They haven't paid me $1, but they do give me a seat on their platform, which is an accurate demographic data platform. And for the first time ever, we are going to be able to show you some of the real behind-the-scenes stuff about actual demographics in the gaming industry and like esports events. GIQ.com, pronounced geek, is a platform that aggregates this data reliably. And we're going to take a look at several esports teams as well as several big titles that you have likely heard of or played, starting with, infamously, League of Legends. So I'm going to pull this up here, and you're going to see a bunch of really crazy stats. This is actually like inside of their platform that we're in here. And I'm going to open up our favorite application, a notepad, and we're going to take some notes, and we're just going to get into it. It's going to be so cool. I hope you join me on this. I hope you like this kind of stuff. It's a little bit, not a little bit, it's really nerdy. But, you know, I don't care. I don't make these videos to get millions of views. I make them because it's super cool. All right? So, first of all, we got to talk about, like, what League of Legends, what kind of age group of people play League of Legends. Well, if you look at the table, you can see that... and for, you know, there's a lot of people listening to this as well, so I'm going to kind of read out some of this stuff. So, like, for the age of League of Legends players, they're mostly below the age of 24, right? So under 24 is about 45% of League of Legends players for age, okay? And then, like, right beyond that, 38% are less than 25 to, or between 25 and 29. So you're going to see that a huge percentage of the League of Legends user base is very young. That's probably because I think that by the time that you're 30, you either have already quit League of Legends because it has driven you insane, or you just don't have time to get into it for it to drive you insane. So most of the people that play League of Legends are actually really young compared to other titles that we're going to look at today, and that is a kind of a cool thing. Despite them being very young, their families have a lot of money. So what I consider to be expendable income above $49,000 a year comprises about 28%. And then if you add in like the 100Ks, that's about 30, like right over 30%. Can't do math, 33%. The over 100,000, if you see this number above 4%, that's going to be interesting because 4% is the average, right? So on average, like 4% of people are going to have over $100,000 anyway. So 5%, a little bit more. The explanation for a little bit more expendable income in this case may be because of the way that League of Legends monetizes. So a little bit more expendable income. They can spend more. And that might be because of how League of Legends monetizes. It's quite difficult to unlock champions without getting a lot of money. You'd have to play a lot. It's very grindy. Also, the monetization of skins and things like that is... hard to get without any kind of money or anything like that. You don't get a lot of like cool skins and things like that. So let's take a look at their audience, and this will also point to why they have a large number of expendable income type people. Well, the United States audience is massive on League of Legends, 45%, and another comprising about 24 million people. This is just looking at real caveat quick here. This is a choice aggregate of data around stuff like the League of Legends YouTube channel, Twitch channel, things like that. So not the entire following. There's going to be more people in the U.S., but you can see that the central market for League of Legends is in the USA and in Brazil, which is super interesting, 9% in Brazil. And we can even look at the table, and you got the United States and Brazil, and then Spain and the United Kingdom coming in at like way less percentages. You might say, wait, but Devin, I know League of Legends has a large Chinese audience. Ooh, and you would have got me, wouldn't you? That was a real good catch there. You're right. League of Legends does have a really big Chinese audience, but we have no idea. That's Russia. Where's China, man? United States here. We have no idea. I'm an American, okay? I didn't take geography class. We have no idea what the Chinese audience is. because they don't tell anybody. It's a firewall. Nobody knows any demographics from China. But we know that there's, well, maybe Tencent knows it, the people that own League of Legends, but we don't know it. There's no way to know. So we can assume that there is a very healthy Chinese audience within League of Legends. We've seen that for like stuff about Worlds, and some of the people that are coming out of China are the best players in the world in League of Legends and are highly sought after from American teams and EU teams. So far we know that League of Legends mostly trends pretty young, and we also know that they have a little bit more income. That's cool. But let's talk about engagement. So like, where do people watch League of Legends? Like, we kind of know a little bit about what kind of people watch it, where they watch it. Well, it turns out that the obvious ones, so Twitch, I mean, dominates at about 1.7 million viewer hours. And you're going to see compared to other, that is just by far the most popular esport, and it's not even close. And you're going to see that come a little bit later in this video. But YouTube has about 29 million engagements and probably some viewer hours as well. I don't believe we're tracking that, but you could just add that to the Twitch numbers. On Twitter, about 10 million engagements. Engagements mean like this is like likes, comments, views, posts, things like that. And on TikTok, about 10 million as well. So people are largely watching League of Legends on Twitch and YouTube, and they aren't hearing about it so much from other places in social media. Pretty interesting, right? So that's a lot of cool data. And another big one too. You're gonna about 17% of League of Legends is female, and 83% is male. That is the largest distribution of female to male gender distribution that is in gaming right now, besides another title that we're going to mention in a little bit. That is a very high female population. We're going to see in some games and some esports teams as we go on that that is absolutely not the case. Having that many females is abnormal and is the sign of a healthy ecosystem. And I personally wish that more games had a healthier female population, because I just think it makes gaming more accessible and available to more people, whereas typically gaming has been known as a male-dominated thing, with 83% still very much is, but that's a number that's getting better. So props to Riot for that and making games more female accessible. Let's look at a game that is much less female accessible, and that is Modern Warfare 2 by Blizzard. So Modern Warfare 2, and we're going to look at that. We're going to pull this up, and now you're going to actually start to see some of the really cool differences between games and like the type of people that watch them and things like that. So here's Call of Duty. So whereas with League of Legends, we saw a hugely young audience with over 45% of people being under the age of 24, in Call of Duty, we see 45% of those people being 25 to 29. So pretty interesting, right? So so here under 24, only 29% or so are below the age of 24. And then 25 to 29 comprises the biggest bracket at 45%. And then quite a few people are older than that on Call of Duty. So why is that? Well, that's because a lot of people that play Call of Duty are casual console owners. So they come home, they're like, I've got my job, I'm gonna spend a couple of hours playing Call of Duty, and then I'm gonna go do all this other stuff I gotta do, or whatever. Versus League of Legends, people trend younger. The art style, the gameplay trends younger. And despite League of Legends being a comparatively old game, as the Call of Duty series is also quite old, League of Legends maintains a much younger audience. It's super interesting, right? So you can kind of see that the audience on Call of Duty trends quite a bit older. And likewise, typically that reflects in income, right? So whereas with League of Legends, we saw that the spending power was actually kind of irregular. It's actually kind of similar for Call of Duty, where despite League of Legends having this younger audience, where you would think that they wouldn't have as much money, they actually have quite a bit of expendable income. With here we see like 26% plus 11%, so that's about thank you Adobe Cloud. That's 27% plus 11%, so there you got 37% or so, about 38% of people over 50,000. That's quite a bit, a lot of expendable income there. And again, about the same amount of people over 100,000 in this category. So a little bit more income than League of Legends, but not much more expendable income. Surprisingly, for the distribution of people that are as young as that, you would think that people would have quite a bit more income, but they don't. They're actually gamers that are within the Call of Duty like ecosystem are usually much more casual, play games a lot less in terms of hours per time put in, right? So I'm in the closet goblin demographic. of gamer, like 100 hours plus a week / every single thing in my life is under threat when a new game comes out, or a Path of Exile League launches, or Dark and Darker gets a new playtest, any number of things, versus like a Call of Duty gamer, they might spend an average of 6 to 10 hours, if that, maybe a week on gaming. Hardly even a part-time commitment. Just don't have the time, or they're console gamers in and out type of thing. Great, that's cool. But where are the kind of people coming from here, and like what's going on? So on Modern Warfare 2, we actually see quite a bit of Twitch engagement at 367 million viewing hours. Now, if you go look at the amount of I'm sorry, above here in League of Legends. Sorry, this number is 1762 million. I was like, that feels like that feels like a low number, and it's 17. So it's actually this number, or whatever. It's 1.7 billion hours, not 1.7 million. Because I was like, the 367 looks a little bit odd. So slight correction there. Twitch has 367 million hours versus the 1.2 billion hours that League of Legends puts up. So you can see that, like, on Twitch, it's not even close. Like I was saying before, Modern Warfare doesn't even come close. Likewise, on YouTube, they have something somewhere north of 20 million engagements and they actually have their main engagement actually for Modern Warfare is actually Instagram, and they have about 20 million engagements there versus 9 million engagements on League of Legends. So interestingly enough, Blizzard actually has more presence on Instagram than League of Legends does, despite the insane difference in player base. So that again shows a different demographic of gamer, right? Like the type of gamer that is on League of Legends doesn't tend to fall weight on Instagram, maybe suggesting that Meta and Instagram are for more casual and older people, which makes sense, right? They tend to be so the younger audience tends to be more on Twitch, which we know to be the case because Twitch demographics trend to be much younger. And the audience that is on Modern Warfare 2 trends towards things like Instagram. Likewise, you'll see that the TikTok engagement on League of Legends is much higher. The TikTok engagement on Modern Warfare 2 is much lower. Really interesting. But let's look at an even older game. And let's look at CSGO. So Counter-Strike Global Offensive is a really, really hard game to get data on because there is no one place where it lives. So unlike with like Riot Games, where you can aggregate data from the League of Legends LCS or the Korean League or the European League, it is difficult to find one place where Counter-Strike lives. There are many different tournaments, and so I looked at Blast Premier, which is here, and I also looked at Gauls, who is one of the top Counter-Strike influencers, and we found some interesting stuff. So the age of people on Counter-Strike is surprisingly young. Now, I would have thought that on Counter-Strike, the vast majority of people would have been older because it is an ancient game. But Counter-Strike has managed to still onboard a lot of younger audiences, which is really interesting. So if you're just listening here, 76% of people are under the age of 29, with a full 46% being under the age of 24. If we go back to our League of Legends stats, that's comparable with League of Legends, with 45% being under exactly the same number being under 24, close to the same number, and about 45% being between age 25 and 29. So Counter-Strike is a really interesting distribution because on League of Legends, you are basically almost everyone that plays the game is under the age of 29. But with Counter-Strike, you're either very young or you're quite a bit older, right? So either you're really young and you're like, and that's like a weird thing. Like normally you don't see that in demographic data. You don't see a thing where both real young people and real old people both play something, because usually what happens is people that are the young people don't think that what the old people are doing is cool, and so they're like, I'm gonna go do something else. And I'm surprised that like the younger people aren't on like Valorant. I think they're there also, but it really surprises me that CSGO has such a young audience. Maybe somebody can explain why that's the case, because I actually don't really understand that. Likewise, if we go to Gauls, the very popular Twitch streamer who is absolutely crushing it, we're going to see a really similar distribution of really young people, right? With over 70% of the audience trending, just under 70% of the audience trending under the age of 29. Very interesting. Likewise, one thing that's like really interesting between like an individual Twitch streamer and like a Premier League is that you'll see that like the income distribution here is largely young. We're looking at like greater than 70% of people being below 30K a year. But with Gauls in particular, almost his entire audience is below that number. Now, why would you think that is? I'll give you a second to think about it. Gauls is a Portuguese language streamer and lives in Brazil. So the Brazilian audience is also going to be lower income than, say, a Theater 1 country like the United States. So despite that, they're very. I love Brazilian audiences. I actually first got attached to them at CLG. We had a lot of Brazilian fans, and it was just so cool that they're just some of the most awesome, nicest people. So like, but they tried lower income, so that would explain that. So look at the distribution though of genders. So we saw over 17% of the people that play League of Legends are female, but only 7% of CS:GO people are female, and 93% male. So this is actually a huge problem for CSGO, and it is a problem that I think CSGO 2, which was just recently announced, is going to run into. I think that CSGO 2 is going to have problems onboarding a greater number of people than Valorant, because I think that the appeal for females to a game like CSGO is just not there. Now, that's important because 50% of people in the world are female. So if you want to make something that is truly accessible to everybody, you need to incorporate females into your game design. And that involves all kinds of different considerations that males maybe on average care less about. Things like art design, things like hero design, things like accessibility to things like how females look, right? Like a lot of girls don't want to play games with a bunch of people in bikini chainmail. There's a lot of different considerations for females that are not there for males. There's a lot of considerations for males that are not there for females, right? So CSGO quite obviously caters to that large male demographic. Likewise, if we go back to Modern Warfare, it won't surprise you to see that 89% of people there are male and 11% of them there are female. So there is just a way less of a following of females to males ratio than there is on like a game like League of Legends. So this is like a super cool thing, right? Now, what about the engagement on a game like CSGO? Well, we talked about age. It's really, really hard to get engagement data on CSGO reliably as a picture of the entire industry, but most of the people that look at that use CSGO, they seem to be using YouTube. Now, I had to do a lot of research outside of GIQ, it's pronounced geek, to get that information. But that seems to be the case that most people are consuming content for CSGO on YouTube, and then obviously through individual streamers like Tarek, or who's playing Valorant right now, but as the time of this recording, but like people like Gauls, where there is a very popular following for CSGO on Twitch. Likewise, even I would argue even more popular than Modern Warfare following, but not more popular than League of Legends. So most people are going to consume that either live on Twitch, they're going to consume it via VOD or through highlights and things like that on YouTube. But there is also a notable Instagram engagement metric here for CSGO as well, but not as many people use Instagram as they do on Modern Warfare. Modern Warfare dominated by Instagram. Super interesting, like pretty cool. So that's some data on some of the games we're going to look at today, but I also want to go over esports teams because this is one of the ones that really fascinates me, and there's been so many instances where I've been on a show or I've been on like a podcast or something, and nobody like knows about esports team demographics. It's really hard to figure out like who these people are, and one of the big reasons we're going to see is because the type of person that would be a follower of a certain esports team doesn't necessarily match up to the type of person that is the follower of another esports team. So we're going to go over two esports teams today. That's going to be Team 100 Thieves and Team Liquid. If these videos are interesting to you, I might do more stuff like this later. But first, before we get into the actual esports stuff, that's right, it's time for the secret call out. 1915 is the time. You post in the comments. Let me know you're still here. and that you are a nerd interested in this kind of stuff, because we make really long videos. So I love when people post in the comment section. I can read that you're still here, that you saw the secret call. It makes me feel all kinds of good that people are actually here and they get something out of these videos. I appreciate you so much. Again, this is not a sponsored video. I don't take sponsors on this channel. I run a company called Novo, which is a brand agency and takes care of brands. So I don't need that kind of money or support or whatever. I just make these videos because I think they're interesting. Likewise, this is kind of a section for call outs and stuff. The only two things I really want to call out is, first, I want to call out Geek. Again, I'm not sponsored, but I just really appreciate them giving us the opportunity to they've given me a seat on this platform, and because they know I love data, and they're just like, you can do cool stuff with this. And also, of course, like brands that are listening to this channel, there's a lot of you that are looking for information on demographics. And again, I'm not paid for this, but I just think it's a really good platform for that. And I think if you're looking for that kind of information, then GIQ can really help you. Again, pronounced geek, but it's GIQ.com. So I'm just giving them a shout out for free. I just think that what they do is awesome. It's cool that they enabled me to make this kind of video, which was totally my idea. Secondly, I have a Patreon, patreon.com/Devin Nash. This is not intended to farm your money. It's actually just a pure value proposition. I have over 90 videos on there that I've made completely custom, over 40 minutes long, that talk about all kinds of marketing and business theory and like what has made me successful in the past. That was meant to be a replacement for my Twitch subscriptions. So it's just $5 because I don't stream on Twitch. So go check that out, patreon.com/Devin Nash. I think it'll be worth your time to even just go over there and take a look at what's there. I mean, man, there's so many videos and so much stuff. So that's a long call out section. Thank you guys for bearing with me. And let's get into the team stuff, like what's going on with like Team Liquid and 100 Thieves. Which one should we start with? What's going to be fun? You know, let's start with 100 Thieves, because I think 100 Thieves is a fairly recent brand compared to Team Liquid. And so we're going to see some big differences in their demographics. So the first thing to notice is that, holy moly, a huge percentage of people at 100 Thieves are young as hell, okay? With 68% of 100 Thieves people being under the age of 24 and 25% being under the age of 29. Holy moly. Can we take out a calculator for a second? 68.12 plus, oh God, okay. 68.12 plus, our calculator has disappeared. It's back. We're good. 25.79. 93.91% of 100 Thieves people are younglings. Good Lord. Only 3.9% are 30 to 34. Why? Oh, isn't that interesting? Well, I want to show you a real interesting statistic as to why. It turns, and I think this is a relatively recent development, it turns out that a huge amount of the engagement, if we go quick on this tab, the huge amount of engagement for 100 Thieves is via TikTok. So 100 Thieves has really leaned into TikTok in recent years. Look at their distribution of TikTok engagements versus their distribution on, like, say, YouTube, which only has less than 600,000 engagements versus 5.7 million on TikTok. So huge effort to put a campaign towards TikTok. Likewise, a campaign on Instagram and a little bit on Twitter. Insanely amount. I can't totally explain why the 100 Thieves brand appeals so much to young people. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Now, likewise, we see a very similar distribution for 100 Thieves in age demographics as we saw in gaming. 93% male, 7% female. So 100 Thieves marketing has managed to convince very young people to be interested in the team, which is good and bad. It's good because young people age up and they get older, and then they spend money. But it's not cool. But it's bad for two reasons. One reason is that young people don't usually currently have money. They got to ask their parents for it. And reason number two is that just because a person gets attached to a brand young doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to stick with it forever. So I really wonder if this is a good thing for 100 Thieves, that they have such a young audience. And I worry that like such a tiny percentage of people that follow this esports team are older. Now, despite that, their income is actually quite high. So interestingly enough, well over 70% of the people that follow 100 Thieves, their families make greater than $30,000 a year. That's pretty crazy. So that shows that 100 Thieves, if you know anything about the brand of 100 Thieves, and you look at some of the types of people that follow 100 Thieves, 100 Thieves appeals to sort of a boutique apparel feel and a boutique streetwear feel. So 100 Thieves has successfully built a marketing campaign that appeals to young people who want to look like street relevant and have the income to spend on that. And they want to like kind of look like they are a sort of in with the cool kids. And that's the 100 Thieves demographic, right? That's like really, really interesting that's the case. Yeah, I just think that's super, super cool. So you can see some of their partnerships like Chipotle. Anything else interesting on 100 Thieves? Well, it's a newer brand, and I think if we compare it to Team Liquid, which I deliberately chose these two, you're gonna start to see some really interesting demographic distribution data. So now, if we take a look at Team Liquid is a historically much younger audience. Okay, why is this popping up? All right. Excuse me. Team Liquid is historically Team 100 Thieves is a much younger audience, whereas Team Liquid is going to be an older audience because Team Liquid has a lot of its roots in OG games. If you are a Team Liquid follower, you might remember that Team Liquid came from a forum that was mainly about StarCraft 1. Okay, some of you listening to this video don't even know what StarCraft is. But I was a diamond random and a master Zerg in StarCraft 2. I love the game, and so Team Liquid was very close to my heart when I was coming up through the ranks in StarCraft. So you're going to see that the young distribution in Team Liquid, and this is probably going to be one of the oldest distributions of demographics in esports. And despite that, only 77% of the people are under the age of 29 versus the 93% that were 100 Thieves. So still a lot of young people, right? But there are quite a bit more older people, with 14 to 9% being over the age of 30 versus only 5% at 100 Thieves. It still surprises me how many young people are following Team Liquid. And it really shows you how young this industry is. And we're going to talk about that in our conclusions section and kind of where that goes. The income distribution of people that follow Team Liquid is a little bit more low income. Not by much, because there's still quite a few people that follow that are higher income, but by a little bit. And that is probably because Team Liquid doesn't use its brand marketing so much towards that boutique apparel feel. You still can buy $100 jerseys, but they like Team Liquid as a whole doesn't really market that way. So really, really interesting that Team Liquid's demographics are so young, yet there's quite a bit more old people, and you can see their kind of OG roots there. They can also see a lot of really interesting distribution with so over here, Team Liquid has about 29% of their followers in the United States, and then the next up is Indonesia at 8%, quite a bit, right? India and Brazil versus 100 Thieves. If you look at their demographic data, you're going to see 67% of them are United States and UK. So Team Liquid with the kind of OG roots has kind of been everywhere and marketed to a lot of different audiences. They have a very strong Brazilian following, very strong Indonesian following. But 100 Thieves, being a relatively new brand coming up in the last sort of 3 to 4 years, is almost exclusively Theater 1, United States, United Kingdom, Canada. And that is why you also see that higher income distribution on 100 Thieves. Pretty interesting, right? So the people that follow 100 Thieves are super young and pretty wealthy American kids. And the people that follow Team Liquid are also young, but a little bit less American, more distributed across the entire world. And another big part of this is that Team Liquid is a dual organization, right? For the longest time, it was run by two co-founders, one who was focused on Europe and one who was focused on America. So you can see that that has resulted in a distribution that is much more sort of worldwide than a company like 100 Thieves. Really interesting that like these two esports teams are so different in their distribution of people. And it's one of the reasons why a platform like this is so cool, is it can sort of show how that distribution is so different. And this is information that I'm not even sure that like these esports teams themselves are aware of unless they sign up for a platform like this. To my knowledge, this is probably the only platform that can do this. Cool. So let's reach some conclusions. And, you know, this video has probably been going for like 40 minutes already, 30 minutes, right? We can't hit every esports team. We can't hit every demographic. There's just so much to talk about. But hopefully I'll give you a pretty good distribution. And now we're going to kind of go over conclusions of like where gaming is at. And these are not just informed by this data, but also by a lot of data that we have at our agency, by other data that's on Geek, and by other data that I just know because I do this kind of stuff for a living, right? So let's read some conclusions about like where the kind of esports and gaming industry is sort of at. Well, number one, it's still really young, right? Young people, young industry, despite the fact that like League of Legends isn't League of Legends above a decade old now, or maybe close to it? maybe more than that. You got CSGO at like, man, CSGO is like 8 million years old. All these games are like pretty old. And despite that, they are maintaining these young audiences. And I think that that is an important note for people that are interested in this, because I do think that gamers age out of these activities. So I think that esports and gaming relies on people, the sort of continual influx of young people to survive. And that once you kind of hit that 30 to 35 range, you're like, man, I got a job. I don't have that much time to play games. Maybe I got a wife and kids now because you're predominantly male. Maybe I've got other stuff I'm focused on. Maybe I'm trying to learn other skills. And it seems like gaming pretty reliably cuts off at that 30 to 34 mark. That like at that point, you don't see too many, at least in these categories, you don't see many people that are watching or playing these esports games, which is a little bit scary for the industry because it kind of means that like your main drivers of income are sort of not there. We're kind of always relying on the young people to really drive their parents to sort of buy the stuff, and their parents are kind of just not getting into it because you don't see in any of these stats, you don't see like over 45 being represented at all. So the parents like look at this stuff and they see their little Jimmy and him watching League of Legends, and they're like, what the hell is that? What is that thing on the screen? Why is it glowing and flashing? And they're like, oh, that's the dragon, Grandma. It's it has 5 different elemental modes, and it changes from poison to frost, and if you activate your lifesteal ability, then you can do 25% extra lifesteal. And the Grandma's like, man, F that stuff. I came up in the war. I can't deal with that right now, okay? I ain't trying to learn all that. And it's just too much, right? Now, games like CSGO, you would think have, and do have, like slightly older audiences because the game is like more easy to understand. You sit down, it's like, okay, well, there's like 5 dudes, and they fight against 5 dudes, and like someone's trying to defuse a bomb. You're like, okay, I get it. All right, cool, got it. But why are they called terrorists? Like a whole other thing, right? And anyway, young industry, gonna stay young, and doesn't seem to have a way into the idea of like I think that if we were going to onboard older people into esports, we would have done it by now. And likewise, a lot of people are like, well, esports and people in esports are young and they're waiting to get old. And when they're old, they're still fans. Ooh, that's like a big opinion, right? You've probably heard, if you've listened to any kind of thing about esports, you've probably heard a lot of people say that. Oh, they're just young right now, but they're going to stay fans. They're going to become older, and then they'll have money. That doesn't seem to be happening, right, though, because we have a lot of these games that are now older than 10 years. So you would have seen those people that onboarded at 20 become 30 and stay interested. But for all games and everything, engagement drops off a cliff at 30 to 34 age group. So it seems to suggest that as people get to the 30 to 34 mark, they kind of age out of gaming and esports, and they're sort of donezo. Maybe you're a person that's like around that age, and you can kind of explain in the comments why that might be the case for you. It's definitely like I have had to, speaking as an older gentleman, a silver fox, have you? I have had to gear my entire life towards being a degenerate gamer, and everyone in my life has to understand that. And it's been very difficult. If I were to have a conventional job or anything like that, it'd be undoable with all the obligations and all the stuff I got to worry about. There's no way. And even then, it's still impacted. So I do see this, and I wonder if you agree with that conclusion. It's very interesting. But let's keep going. People who play games have a surprising amount of income, especially people who follow boutique esports teams. So despite people trending very young, they usually trend to be in high-income categories, especially people in the United States. Kids have a lot of money, and they follow esports teams, and they spend that money on things like apparel drops and things about like looking cool in Nate Shot's golfing gear or whatever. So interesting stuff there. Just kind of seems like people that play games have more money than other people that don't. Next, esports and gaming, and this is, I think, a big one, are still hugely male. Way too many men are playing these games compared to females. And it seems to be a constant stickler that games just don't seem to be able to break into the female audience at all. Now, I told you, and I promised you that I was going to give you an exception to this rule, and maybe you've already guessed what that exception is, and that exception is Valorant. Now, Valorant reports a 30 to 40% female player audience. If that is the case, that is the largest female distribution of gamers in any major game. That information is from the head of Riot Esports in an interview with GameBeat that said that basically Valorant's player base is 30-40% female. So we can believe that. I mean, it's from a reliable source. That's an incredible number if it's true. That dominates League of Legends, which is 17% female. Wow. Valorant seems to have unlocked the key to getting females to play the game. Very interesting why that might be the case. It's got to be something to do with the game design, accessibility. I'm not sure. But it's really interesting. If Valorant has unlocked that key, then other games might need to take note of that, and maybe we can get a more healthy distribution of females into the gaming sphere. Make no mistake that a healthy distribution of females is very positive and is a great thing for gaming. We want that in every game. It is notoriously difficult to onboard females to games like CSGO. I encourage you to just, any of you that haven't listened to this yourselves, just go to YouTube and go check it out. The first thing that happens when a female gets on voice comms in a game like CSGO is not fun. And that is a very typical experience of females that I think gates them out of a lot of these games like Modern Warfare or CSGO. It's really the males that put up that barrier, unfortunately. And that's something that I've talked about a lot in the past. And I wish would be corrected in the future. But I'm not counting on it. So the Valorant stat is really interesting. Next, TikTok is a major way that esports teams are connecting with fans. Instagram, likewise, is huge across all esports. So if you look at the distribution of engagement across multiple esports teams, most esports teams are heavily relying on TikTok for their engagement numbers. That's not good, because I don't think I've done a lot of talks about this in other videos that I've done, but I don't think that TikTok has very good engagement follow through when it comes to that platform. AKA, people that watch things on TikTok will, they'll give you your 6 to 30 seconds, and they typically won't, that'll be an engagement, and you can count that as a view, and you'll see all these people on TikTok that are like, yeah, man, I've got 5 million followers on TikTok. But then you look at their Twitch following or their Twitter following, they've got 50 concurrent viewers if they're lucky, and they've got 4K followers on Twitter. And you see that over and over again, and you're like, what's happening here? And I there's a couple of prominent brands and marketing people, myself included, that have run and crunched the numbers on this, and we've just found over and over again that, with few exceptions, there are obviously exceptions to every rule, and sometimes TikTok creators have massive engagement, particularly the people that are prioritizing for that real engagement, real follow-through. Sorry, I want to make a quick distinction between follow-through and engagement. When I say engagement, I mean views, likes, interactions. But when I say follow-through, I mean they buy something, they go follow you somewhere else, they become a loyal viewer that comes back. Low follow-through on TikTok, I think because younger audiences just don't tend to have the patience, and we're training people through TikTok and YouTube Shorts to sort of engage with stuff on a very what's the word, like a vague, a low touch basis. They don't really get invested. It has to be really good content to get them to think about going to something for multiple minutes and really being engaged. So TikTok seems to be a way that esports teams are leaning on getting new fans. That probably also explains things like 100 Thieves having such a large female demographic, a large young demographic. But that is not great, because of that. TikTok has low follow through, so that is an unhealthy trend for esports teams. And one thing I also noticed in this analysis was that the YouTube engagement for esports teams is abysmal. Does anybody remember the times in 2015 to 2019 where teams like TSM and Team Liquid were building these and FaZe Clan were building these big narratives on YouTube, where they would have these storylines that would follow their players, and they would teach you to sort of care about it? Yeah, all that stuff is gone now, and the esports teams showings on YouTube for the most part is pathetic, and that's a real vulnerability. The two platforms I see that are being absolutely underutilized are YouTube and Twitter, and the reason is one reason, and it's because custom content is hard to create. So I've said before, if you look at my previous videos about esports, I think that a lot of esports teams, especially their content creation, is getting quite lazy. They are less willing or less able to do big custom content plays, most of which live on stuff like YouTube, and they don't want to do custom interaction on places like Twitter and really make engaging threads that make a difference. And that's going to hurt esports teams in the long run. If you go back to my previous video a few recordings ago, I talked about the esports industry and how it's in pretty dire straits right now. And this information is certainly not helping it. Relying heavily on TikTok to get the views and then sell sponsors on those views, what they're doing, right? It just is not as high quality of an impression than if they were focusing on creating valuable storylines and content on places like YouTube. And if you think about the narratives that have occurred in esports over the past 3 to 5 years versus the former 5 years, so thinking about like 2020 to 2023 versus like 2019 to 2015, the narratives are a lot worse, if not non-existent. And we're not taught to care about players in the same way as we were, I think, back then. Esports teams are just not doing a lot of work to create that sort of custom experience. Maybe this is because they have investment capital. Maybe it's because they've given up. Maybe it's a combination of both. I don't know. But it seems to be that they're just not shoring up when it comes to that content creation. There's probably exceptions to this. Probably some people making some pretty awesome content, but I haven't really run into anybody. Maybe you have, and you can let me know. And yeah, so those are some of the conclusions. Very young, well, but surprising amount of income. Still hugely male, but upticks, some hope coming through in games like League of Legends and Valorant. Really, Riot leading the charge on female players. I was about to make a... Okay, moving on. But TikTok is still a major way that people engage with fans. I think esports as a whole is leaning probably too heavily on new platforms and not creating enough custom content and custom narratives. Did you like this weird nerd deep dive into demographics information for marketing? Well, then you're my type of person. Thanks for watching this, eh? Go to discord.gg/Devin if you want to talk about stuff like this. I'd love to hear from you. And yeah, like I just hope you like this kind of stuff because I'm going to keep making it so you can subscribe to keep watching it. Until next time, bye.